Good morning, CSA. We are having church here this morning. Yes, CSA, we will stand up together to build this new world that's being born. And I feel like I've had church. Praise and worship was off the hook. Yes. Jerry, that beautiful prayer. My name is Mitch Austin, and I'm a ministerial intern here at CSA, and I have the good pleasure to bring you the message this morning. And it's been a week. I feel like it's been a month, but it's only been a week. A tough week. A lot of difficult images and happenings in the world today. Our capital, I never thought, it just took the wind out of me, and I knew it took the wind out of a lot of us to see that happening in our country. You know, the next day, I sat down and I got still, and I had something just kind of wash over me, this bit of wisdom. You might call it a divine download or a God shot, and I'd like to share it with you. I wrote, as the dust settles, the White House gets put back together again, hopefully our nation as well. I would encourage everyone to remember what the real issue is. It's judgment and condemnation. I do not hate the people that stormed the White House. I question how healed are they as people and why they feel there's so much to fear. My reaction is not one of horror, it's one of deep concern and compassion. Happy, healthy people do not behave the way we saw them behave at the White House yesterday. More than ever, we need to raise the vibration of wisdom, love, and peace on the planet. Let's not get sucked into the drama, but rather pulled into the solution. It is up to us. Yes, it is up to us. Throw up a heart. We're here to be that change. And I know there's a lot of shift going on. It feels like wave after wave after wave. And you might be wondering, I know I'm wondering, and hopefully we're going to talk about it today, but where is God in all this? Where is God in all this shift? Where is God in all this shift? And what is ours to do? What is ours to do? And I want to start off with a little piece of wisdom from Reverend Dr. Temple Hayes of the Association for Global New Thought. And he tells us a little bit about what's ours to do. He says, it's time to step up, not down. We can only start where we are in the decisions we make and live right now. Heal the divide within you. And over time, the divide will heal within each of us. We are not broken. Our world is not broken. And until we mend the misunderstanding in our psyche, we will always allow the lesser to guide us. It's up to us to heal what needs to be healed. So where's God in all this shift? Let's answer that question. You know, we're shifting to higher ground, but sometimes the sausage making of that, it doesn't feel great. And it can feel like things are going wrong. So I want to take a higher view of this. I want to take a spiritual view of this process that's unfolding, this process of becoming. Because the law of mind is active right now. Let's make no mistake. And I want to break that down. And it has three parts. The first part is illumination. When we have clarity, when we have truth, when we see something that's going wrong or going right, it begins to shift providence. And we've seen a lot lately that we haven't seen, that has lived in the shadows, and it must change. And that second part is the change. It's the transmutation. It's the shift. Transmutation is taking what was meant for our harm and changing it into something for our good. And we're going to talk about that today. And all of this leads to our emancipation, to our greater freedom and expression in the world. And with that freedom comes more responsibility. So let's break this down. That first part, the illumination. It is done unto us as we believe in our hearts. In our hearts. And we got clear about some things that have been living in the shadows. We can't unsee what we saw. We can't unsee what happened to George Floyd. And our hearts poured out and said no. And we see a wave of shifting policies, new ways of doing things. See, this illumination is critical in this shift in what needs to be born and come forward. And we can't unsee this truth. We can try to run away from it, but you can't hide. You can't hide from God. You can't hide from Spirit because we are it. So we need to remember this first process, this illumination, is critical in changing it. The second part of the process is the transmutation, is the shift. Changing something that was meant for our harm into something that was helpful. We've had this happen in the past. And I want to revisit this through the lens of history. When World War II ended, now remember, the Russians and us, we fought together. But when the war ended, we had a new realization about our world that it's much smaller than we thought it was. And what happens over there is important. That we must come together as one world. And a lot of agreements got made and new committees. A lot of things came out of that illumination. But also what came out was that the country that's going to lead the world is the one's going to get to kind of call the shots. So there started this Cold War between Russia and America. We used to be allies. Now we're in this Cold War. We're in a new shift. And out of that, we did a lot to, create weapons and all kinds of smart bombs and things that are meant for our harm. But what also came out of that was new technologies. We had to make our computers more efficient so they could calculate things, where things were going to land. So we ended up with computers, microcomputers, all of that. We also came up with the internet. DARPA had to communicate and send information, and they created something called the internet. And we're benefiting from that now. GPS came out of that time and technology, water purification, CAT scans. So much came out of that race that is now being used for our good. What the caterpillar calls the end, the butterfly calls the beginning. And the in-between, I think we should add this to the quote, the goo that's in the cocoon is wondering, where is God in all this? And that's where we're at. We're in the goo. And we need to see and remember where we're at because it leads to the third part, the emancipation, the freedom. In Science of Mind, we've even added this idea of freedom being our birthright, that it's going to come to all of us in our we believe statements. And I want to revisit that here right now. We believe the ultimate goal of life to be a complete emancipation from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. I don't leave anybody out. All discord. And I believe that's what we're seeing in this shift, and that is where God is. So what has been illuminated now? What is shifting right now? What have we seen in recent times that was meant for our harm that's shifting us to higher ground? Well, in COVID, what we realized in the illumination is that we're vulnerable to the spread of disease, that what happens over there matters. I remember several years ago, and you may too, when you saw SARS come up on the news and watched people in Japan wearing masks. I thought, oh, that's over there. That's over there. I just clicked my TV and moved on. We can't do that anymore. We have to really care about the one of us now, no matter where we are, because it affects us all. We needed to see that. We needed to know that. Social equity. We thought we had social equity when Obama was elected. Oh, we've arrived. No, we haven't. We just begun to unpack what was in the shadows, the racism, the sentiments people really have about immigration and immigrants. All of this lower energy forms now coming to the surface so we can heal it, so we can transmute it. And in the illumination, right now, more recently, we're seeing how susceptible our political system is to corruption and manipulation. And while all of this can feel painful, the good news is we have transmutation. We can take what was meant for our harm and make it into something for our good. You know, if we were looking at God's mall map of our process right now, you know, the little mall map, it would say, you are here, transmutation. That's where we're at. We're in the shift. And God's in it with us. Spirit's in it with us. So for COVID, let's take COVID here for a second. You know, it used to take a year to develop a vaccine. Now, we've rapidly advanced our technology so that we've got it down to 3 to 4 months. And we're using RNA instead of dead viruses and putting it in us. Now we've got something else to work with, and much more quickly. Artificial intelligence now is coming to the table. Actually, AI spotted the pandemic at 8 patients in China. We didn't realize that, but it did. Now we're working with AI to identify patient one. Patient one. What if we had done that? Amen? Yes. We want this to come forward. It has to come forward. And with social equity, we're seeing sweeping reform on a level we have never seen in this country in recent times. You know, I work also in HR, and I've noticed this thing being added to a lot of HR managers' job descriptions. It's called DEI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. A few years ago, I didn't even know what DEI was. I thought, is that a store? You know, I didn't know. And now I do, and there's whole positions, whole full-time positions in corporations and organizations who are dedicated to diversity, equity, inclusion. Amen. This is powerful stuff that's coming forward. And now we're in this place where we need to look at our politics. How do we protect the narrative so that the truth gets out? How do we keep from outside influences manipulating our political outcomes? This is the work we need to do. And one thing I'm hearing a lot about is blockchain. Now, it's a technology that's gotten a lot of press lately, but the thing is with blockchain, it's a consensus technology. So we could vote on the blockchain conceivably, and 10,000 consenters have to say this vote is valid. Now, what I know is you're not going to call up 10,000 people and strong-arm them. Can't do it. Ain't going to happen, right? So a whole nother level of accountability to our system is here, and it's being born, and we can participate in it because it's up to us. It's up to us. Let's pay attention to this. The policies that need to come out, the governance, the all of us participating in this shift for a reform of our political system. Amen? Yes. Yes. So what is ours to do? Let's take a spiritual perspective, because we know all of this is an inside-out job. And the first thing I want to go back to, and that bit of wisdom from Reverend Dr. Temple Hayes, is we need to heal ourselves. We need to heal ourselves, and especially that divide within us. So if we've put anyone outside of our heart, that's our inside work, is to start to reconnect, if only in our minds and our hearts, which is powerful, so powerful. Let us not underestimate the power of our thoughts and the vibration of our heart, because that is what's creating things right now on the planet. And I know it's hard. I know it's difficult. I actually had an experience that kind of took the wind out of me. My long-lost brother, who I hadn't known of, I met in recent years. He was on the planet for over 40 years, and I didn't know he was here. And we reconnected a few years ago, and I saw a post the other day of him celebrating what happened at the Capitol and waving a Trump flag. I couldn't believe it. Because the guy I know has a huge heart. He cried for 6 months when his favorite ferret died. He saved a pit bull that nobody wanted. He breeds little parakeets and sells them. He's a beautiful being of light. And then I saw this, and I went, how could this be? I thought I got to respond to this post. So I thought, well, how do I respond from a higher place? How do I respond from truth? How do I respond to remember who he is? And I said, I love your big heart, Johnny. I love your big heart. I said, we voted for different people for president. And then I said, and I do agree, a lot of corruption is being exposed. That's what I posted. And then I held my breath. Right? And I checked this morning, and you know what I saw? I saw a like. I saw one little like from Johnny. That one little thread told me he's still there. The love is there between us. The connection is there between us. And it gave me hope. And I hope it gives you a greater sense that we can still be connected to the divine essence in all of us. It's there. And we need to look for it because it's up to us. Yes? Also, what is ours to do is to promote oneness. Now, I know some of us feel like we won the election, right? Our guy won. But this was a hard election. There was a lot of collateral damage. I have a hard time feeling there was any winning here. And I think to promote oneness, we need to remember to be good winners. Some of us I see were lampooning Trump supporters or shaming people or blaming or lecturing. This is not promoting oneness. This is not uploading what we really want in the world. So that is ours to do, to promote oneness. And then the third thing I would propose is that we answer the call to love. People are hurting. Hating, judging, condemning is not going to heal it. The only thing that judgment and condemnation does right now is it uploads into the one mind more judgment and more condemnation. Now, do people who do wrong things need to be held accountable for their behavior? Absolutely. I'm not saying to let people off the hook. I'm not saying not to use your discernment. But when we start to paint people with one brush, when we start to hate, when we start to enter into this you're unredeemable kind of thinking, it all goes up into the one mind. I want you to think of the one mind like a cloud in the sky. And the clouds, are built by the evaporation of water up into the sky. And then what happens is it rains down. That's how the one mind works. What are we evaporating up in our heart, in our mind right now? That's going to rain back down because judgment is judgment. Whether it's righteous, whether it's dark, it doesn't matter. It's the same energy. And we can end it. It begins with us right here. What are you vibrating? What are you expanding in your reaction or response to something? I want you to check in with yourself. Because Spirit doesn't know the difference in who put up the vibration. It doesn't. And that's what is ours to do right now, is to shift the collective mind and heart to higher ground. We don't want to add to the FUD, to the fear, uncertainty, of doubt. Let us stand in the light so more light can rain down. Amen? Yes. And the last thing I want to add, I know we're all on social media these days because, we're in the house and there's a computer and there's, what are we going to do, right? Many of us are out there writing things, saying things online. So I want to offer some wisdom from the Sufi tradition as we begin to do this and want to be in alignment with the Most High and the spiritual principle of love and oneness and connection. In the Sufi tradition, they offer that before you say something, before you write something, and I would add, even as you're thinking something, let it pass through these 4 gates. Number 1, is it true? Number 2, is it helpful? Number 3, is it kind? And number 4, is it necessary? Those 4 gates. Let that be our touchstone for what we write, what we say, and what we think. So as we do this work, let us remember that the world is not broken. There are broken beliefs in the world, no doubt. But we can transmute it through being the God beings that we are on the planet. We are the shift. And that is where the G-O-D is, the grand organizing designer, in us, in our hearts, in that divine pull. So let us do our part to be the love, to heal, and to be the change. Now, I know what you're saying. Mitch, I got some shift exhaustion. You gave me all this stuff to do and be. I'm just tired. I just want some peace. I just want to feel freedom now. I'm tired too. I understand that. And what I also understand is that peace and freedom can be a thought away right now, no matter what's going on in the world. And I want to end this with some peace and freedom for you. A little bit of rest and respite. And so I would invite you right now just to take a deep breath. Exhale. Let your shoulders drop. Come into this space. And if it is comfortable, close your eyes and allow these words to wash over you. This wisdom from Wendell Berry called the peace of wild things. When despair for the world grows in me and I wake in the night at the least sound of fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world, and I am free. Amen. Thank you so much. Blessed be. Let's take this message into prayer. And normally I would download a prayer and just shoot one out to you, but something happened this morning. I came across our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, who did a prayer for our country at one of its most dark times during the Depression. And I want to read this to you this morning, and I hope it feeds you as much as it fed me. I did change the part of economics to be more current to what's happening with today. And here's what our founder says. I know that the divine intelligence governs the destiny of the United States of America, directing the thought and the activity of all who guide its affairs. I know that success, prosperity, and happiness are the gifts of freedom and are the divine heritage of everyone in this country. I know that success, prosperity, happiness are now operating in the affairs of every individual in this country. I know that divine guidance enlightens the collective mind of the people of this country, causing it to know that political reform, social equity, and environmental security may come to all without a loss of either personal freedom or individual expression. I know that no one can leave or be led to believe that freedom must be surrendered in order to ensure all these things. The all-knowing mind of God contains the answer to every problem which confronts this country. I know that every leader in this country is now directed to the all-knowing mind and has the knowledge of a complete solution to every problem. And each is compelled to act upon this knowledge to the end that abundance, security, and peace shall come to all. And I know that this spiritual democracy shall endure, guaranteeing to everyone in this country personal liberty, happiness, and self-expression. And so it is. Amen.